How can I invite them to our little home? She moaned. She wondered how they have the means to send their son to England for an education. They must have inherited the money. A week later, I was wandering aimlessly in CP when Anand spotted me. Come, Amar, come. Let me take you to the gym, he said, warmly putting an arm around me. Gym? Yes, the Gymkhana Club. I hesitated. There is a very grand place. We are not members, but I am. Come and meet my friends. The hall porter greeted us at the desk where Anand signed me in as his guest. I must have looked younger than my 16 years because the porter asked me my age. Anand was a good 5 year older. We walked past smoke filled card rooms to a lounge full of young people and laughter. I looked around me with Ave, bearers in starched white uniforms with green cummerbunds and sashes and tassels were gliding between the tables. So, this is where the smart people meet, I thought. As Anand hailed a group of young people to join us, I was intoxicated by my first encounter with an inaccessible and forbidden world. The glamour, the clothes, the sophistication of language and manners. I imagined these people dwelling in big houses with tall hedges and high gates, leading a life quite unlike my own. My eyes seemed to be pulled as though by a lodestone, and they alighted on a girl with brilliant, laughing eyes. She seemed to be the same as me and vaguely familiar. She was tall, slim, and well made. Under a mass of raven hair was an innocent smile. I could not remember where I had seen her. Her friends call her Isha. I kept gazing at her, hoping she would recognize me, but she looked through me as she chatted vivaciously with her friends. I couldn't make out what they were laughing at. She was utterly beautiful, and her daring manner dazzled me. Shh, there she is, said a slightly older, sultry woman in our group with an ample bosom. There was silence as all eyes turned to look at a woman in a white chiffon sari, her upper lip curving prettily on her old face. Although no beauty, she had an arresting face with thick black eyelashes that crowded her dark eyes. I stared at her rising bosom. Suddenly, everyone in our group began to gossip about her in hushed tones. I gathered that she was the second wife of one of the senior-most civil servants and had apparently been seen in company of younger men in one of the shadier cafes in CP. Someone added another bit of salacious news, and soon our group was having a nice laugh at what they believed to be a scandal in the making. I was drawn by the immoderate atmosphere of subdued sensuality and continued to watch without fully taking in what was being said. For heaven's sake, he is her cousin, and they grew up together. He is visiting them for a few days, Anand said, putting a stop to the mischievous tittle tattle. The scandalmongers felt ashamed. Enough, Anand said, suddenly getting up. Don't you have anything better to talk about than spread lies about someone who is not here to defend herself? See, you have driven him away, said Isha with a veil, accusing no one in particular. She gave Anand the look of adoration as we left. My head was spinning when I returned home. It was my first encounter with the forbidden world, and I was thrilled. I tried to recall Isha's thin face, her shining brown eyes, her long dark hair, and the unusual way she tilted her head. The more I thought about her, the more inaccessible she seemed to me become. I lay awake for hours thinking about her. A few days later, I realized suddenly where I had seen her, and the discovery left me breathless. It was in a grand house in red sandstone, surrounded by a vast garden on Prithviraj Road with the number 23 written prominently on the gate. I bicycled past it every day on my way to school, and I had once seen Isha accidentally through the hibiscus hedge when I had got off to fix the chain of my bicycle. What had been an impersonal landmark on my daily journey now acquired a special character, and as the days went by, it became the chief source of pleasure in my life. As soon as the bell rang in the afternoon, announcing the end of school, I would hurriedly gather my books, jump onto my bicycle before any of my schoolmates decided to tag along. A red round post box, a proud symbol of the British days, stood 100 yards from Isha's house, and it announced the pleasure that awaited me. When I reached his daunting gate, I would slow down, take a deep breath, and jump off my bike. I would walk past her house slowly with measured steps. My heartbeat would quicken as I looked through the wrought iron gate. It gave a view of the side of the stone house and a winding path leading up to a long, majestic entrance mellowed by years of Delhi's weather. I walked along the hedge that circled the house, and I could see the lawn indistinctly and tell if they had company. I would observe servants in uniform moving back and forth on the lawn with the tea service. I became skilled at hiding behind a giant neem tree, watching the goings on. On my lucky days, I was able to spot her. I knew it was she by the dread that seized my heart. A tiny brown dog would follow her everywhere. Sometimes she would be talking to her friends. At other times, she would be playing badminton at the side of the house. I saw her up close on one occasion, and suddenly everything turned brighter. She was in light blue, sitting on the lawn a few yards away from the hedge. She was speaking with an older man of indeterminable indeterminate age, and her friends were chatting nearby. Her head was unmistakably tilted as she listened to him. I envied all her friends because of their good fortune. They were able to be close to her, and I yearned to be part of their group. Suddenly, she looked up and saw me. Her lively eyes seemed to mock at me. A shiver ran through my body, and I quickly moved away. A few minutes later, I heard a voice. It was the same older man who she had been talking to. He told me that it was not polite to stare at people. I was mortified and quickly retreated. Overwhelmed with terror, I jumped on my bicycle and raced home. When I went inside, I burst into tears. For weeks, I was depressed, and I could not think. I could think only of the contrast of my drab life with the brilliance of her world. At night in bed, before going to sleep, I would imagine Isha always in grand settings, surrounded by beautiful people. They would be dressed stylishly and laughing all the time. As Anand appeared, they would turn to look at him with rapture. Isha, in particular, gazed at him exultantly. What was there in those deep dark eyes of his that showed on the surface? It was an unreachable, magical world. Sometimes I would awaken in the night and wonder what time it was. I could see a ray of light beneath the door of my room that came from a bulb on the landing that my parents had left on. My thoughts ran along various gloomy channels of their own making, but they always came to rest at the same dismal destination. I couldn't get Isha out of my head. My first encounter with Isha, as I think about it, was a significance that goes beyond our chance meeting. It is difficult to explain why my eyes fell on her and not someone else on that fateful evening in Gymkhana Lounge and seemed to get glued there. It was not because she was the most beautiful. All the women in the lounge were suffused with some sort of beauty in my eyes, nor was it her defiant, laughing face. Perhaps it was something in her eyes, a sort of magical light. I wanted to possess it. It was at this moment that love entered my life. And as I ponder some more, I realized that even as a 16-year-old, I was becoming a diminished creature of habit. I had been a good boy living a predictable life of routine. I would go to school, study for exams, play during recess, and was generally liked by my teachers. The accidental meeting with Isha broke this monotonous routine. It shook me out of a dull and deadening apathy. I became alive and began to live for the first time with the whole of my being, alert to the present and aware of an enchanting quality in a pair of eyes that I wanted to possess. In Proust's novel, Remembrance of Things Past, the young Marcel also discovers much the same thing. He is on a train going for the first time to Balbec. The train stops a little at a little station between two mountains, and he spots a tall girl emerging from the station house carrying a jar of milk. She walks past the window of the train, offering coffee and milk to the few awake passengers. Flushed with the glow of morning, her face was rosier than the sky. I felt on seeing her that desire to live which is reborn in us whenever we become conscious anew of beauty, of happiness. Marshall feels the need to be noticed by the milk carrier. He signals to her, and when she fails to see him, he calls out to her. But it's too late. The doors are closing, the train begins to move. She slips away from him into the distance. Watching her recede on the horizon, he yearns to hang on to his memory and his excitement. He realizes that his life is speeding away from her, and his imagination creates a fantasy of returning one day to meet her. In an earlier part of the book, Proust reminds us that the memory of a particular image is but regret for a particular moment. Perhaps what Marshall is regretting is the elegiac passage, and thus remembering is not the missed opportunity with this country girl, but rather the passing of a moment made beautiful by an imagined happier world. Both Marcel and I had awakened to a renewed sense of life and beauty. Why does this not happen to us more often? Proust thinks it is because of habit, the routine of our life deadens our sensibility and makes us undeserving of desire. My encounter with Isha interrupted my dull existence, as did Marcel's on the train, awakening dormant capabilities in both of us, Proust explains. But in this again, the temporary cessation of habit played a great part. I was giving the milk girl the benefit of the fact that it was the whole of my being, fit to taste the keenest joys which confronted her. As a rule, it is with our being reduced to a minimum that we live. Most of our faculties lie dormant because they can rely upon habit, which knows what there is to be done and has no need of their services. But today, my habits were missing, and all my faculties came hurrying to take their place. Over the years, I have come to realize that one has to be deserving of desire. By this nature, karma insists that one live in the moment. Desire exists here and now, not as an abstract concept. It is an emotion directed towards a specific individual, and one has to be open, attentive to life, and ready to seize the moment. Marcel woke up too late and lost the moment. It is not easy to be alert. Unless one is attentive, it is easy to settle into a dull routine. The present tends to escape us because we are more comfortable living in the past of or the future. Only by shaking off the predictable everydayness of our lives do we become worthy of karma. The anxiety that sometimes wakes me at 4 in the morning also brings with it an alertness that had been so long lost to me that I find it both unnerving and exhilarating.